For English subtitles, simply press the subtitle button. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Reptil TV. My intro animal for you today is my pride and joy right now. And it's a leucistic African house snake, Lamprophis. It will probably be fuliginosus, which I got from Africa this year. Leucistic animals even hatch. 4 of them in total, which were born in Africa. To my knowledge, these are the only leucistic house snakes in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you've already seen it somewhere else, correct me, of course. It would be interesting. I'd be interested. I believe they are the only leucistic domestic snakes so far. I'm excited for them to grow up. As I said, I have 4 animals here and I hope that the genders match. They're a bit small right now, so I want to leave them alone for the time being. But then, in 1 or 2 years, I hope to breed them. You are the first to hear about my latest acquisition here. They're a bit small right now, so I want to leave them alone for the time being, but then in 1 or 2 years, I hope to breed them. You are the first to hear about my latest acquisition here. Today's topic is this wonderfully beautiful female gecko here, scientifically known as Iluronyx brachygaster. Its common name is the Seychelles giant gecko, and it's one of the largest gecko species in the world. I think, apart from the lychee geckos, which get a bit bigger and heavier, these Trachygaster are number 2 in terms of size. This here is an adult female. They can definitely grow about 30% more in size and volume. Besides being incredibly large, they are unfortunately also incredibly rare. They have a very small range in the Seychelles. I claim that this is probably the rarest gecko in the world that we have here. And I will tell you more about it today in this episode. In this episode, I'm going to tell you a bit more about this gecko. I mentioned it earlier. The animals come from the Seychelles, specifically from Praslin. Praslin is an island in the Seychelles. So far, the unique gecko has only been found there, specifically in the Vallée de Mai, which is a very small and protected nature reserve in the Seychelles. What's special about this nature reserve is that it is known for its unique biodiversity and rare species of plants and animals, including the famous coco de mer, which is a giant coconut that can weigh up to 25 kilos. In this reserve, these tall and majestic coconut palms grow. That's where this nut grows. It's also a sensation. The largest nut in the world and the largest seed in the world. The coconut is the seed of the coconut palm, and when you think about it, weighing 25 kilo is just phenomenal. Accordingly, these nuts are strictly protected and have a unique shape. You could see them like a lady's bottom. They can look like 2 red ones. The appearance of these nuts alone stimulates the imagination. Everything that stimulates the imagination is considered an aphrodisiac, and the nuts are accordingly sought after. The interesting thing is that this gecko lives on these palms, so giant coconuts. A giant gecko, that fits quite well, but correspondingly small is this range. As I said, the forest is only 20 hectares large, which is about the size of 30. You can all imagine soccer fields. It's not that big. And if this lizard lives there, then probably a few thousand specimens live in this area. And nothing more, because these nuts are so protected. Come here to my sweater. You always blend in quite well with it. The fact that these nuts are so protected also indirectly protects the gecko. This park is guarded. There are people walking around with dogs to make sure that no one goes there at night to steal the nuts. And of course, no one can poach or hoard these geckos there, which is great news for this gecko. That's wonderful, and it should be that way. They live up to 10-20 meters high on this giant coconut palm. Because of their limited range, they are quite rare to see. making them a very rare animal in nature. And the way of life in these tall palms makes them even harder to access. The animals are currently being bred in captivity, with approximately 30 to 40 adult animals existing in captivity so far in number. There are already the first hatchlings. We can show some photos starting with the eggs so you can see how big these eggs are, and from them relatively large baby geckos hatch. We can also show you some photos. These are the beginnings of the breeding. We hope that this giant gecko will be even more successful in the coming years. I am proudly the owner of a pair. Here is the female, and we'll see the male shortly. And I am also trying to breed and multiply them in the coming years, the terrarium, or I'll show you the male now. We're heading over to the terrarium. Here we are at my giant gecko terrarium. It's currently 90x50x90. But I'm not entirely sure if that's the right size. If they grow in size, then it will also reach 120 in height. No harm to worry about. Back there, I can show you a male in a swift manner, if you would like. The great thing is they are not shy at all. Shy. It's not like a rock iguana, so that they quickly shed their skin. Overall, did you also see the female? They are really creepy. Trustful terrarium animals, perhaps because of their size, have so much self-confidence, but that is not something that... So, on one hand, they remind me of rock iguanas, just by their body structure, how they cling to the glass when I see them. For me, they look like a giant day gecko, but the fact that they are active at night is something else. And of course, they also differ significantly in color, although there are day geckos found in the Seychelles as well. To me, it looks like a giant day gecko, but just the fact that they are active at night. And of course, they also differ significantly in color, although day geckos can also be found in the Seychelles. So it's not entirely out of place for the terrarium. This is related to my ball python breeding. Is here with me in the ball python breeding. Background, why this is the ball python breeding area. It's just the climate. I think the gecko wants it really nice. Warm, like coconut palms. They grow in tropical, warm, hot areas. I have been to the Seychelles, just not in this park yet, but I have been to the Seychelles on the main island, where it's hot every day and has high humidity. And that's how I chose the terrarium. So we have a room temperature of 31 degrees here, and then I have two of these up top UV lamps, these 23 watt energy saving lamps with 10% UVB content. I've placed them on top here. They also go underneath so they don't avoid the light. They definitely get some of that UV light. I think that's really good. Otherwise, there are appropriate decorations inside. They really like these palm leaves. In German, we call them Papaholz. These are the palm leaves that have been cut off. I think they really like the surface. They spend a lot of time on the glass, just like the female is hanging there now, really often on the glass. They probably enjoy that smoothness, and the ground is always slightly moist to help increase the humidity a bit. Just a quick note on the animal's diet. These Dachigasta are pure vegetarians. I feed them with fruit puree, the same one used for the crown geckos, which you mix with water. They really eat a lot, like a little bowl in here. They actually eat that every night. The next morning, that's an absolutely licked clean bowl. It's really amazing. At least 5 times a week they get a bowl full of that and they clean it out. Or rather, down here on the ground, there's also somewhere they can go to. They don't completely empty that out. This relatively large bowl, but it's really enormous how much they eat. As I said, theoretically pure vegetarians. We're also going to offer a grasshopper now. So far they haven't touched it yet. I don't know if they'll go for it. The other Trachygaster keepers also feed them purely vegetarian. What I find interesting And what also interests me about you, I had previously mentioned that they live on this coconut palm. On this coconut palm, there aren't really any fruits or anything else. There are at most these flowers, the male flower. It does have a bit of pollen on it, but other than that, I can't really imagine. They don't eat coconuts. So from that perspective, I would really be interested. Do you maybe have an idea, or is anyone among you really good with botany? And you say, oh, of course, on the coconut palms, there are still these and those fruits that grow there in a parasitic way, or God knows what. So I would really be interested in your opinion on that. Do you have any ideas about that? What they can eat? When I look at what they eat here, I can't imagine that if they feed on flower pollen, they would have to eat whole stems of it. I'm curious. Feel free to write in the comments if you know anything about it. That's how I keep them and try to breed them. We already saw the eggs earlier. Always eggs, hard-shelled eggs, they stick them somewhere. They don't lay them on the ground, but they stick the eggs on. You have to be careful that you see and discover. I would guess that they lay 4 to 6 clutches a year. That means they might have between 8 and 10 or even 12 offspring in total. Wish me luck this year that I can manage to breed some amazing geckos. Feel free to share in the comments what you think about it, how you like them. You say an incredibly cool gecko, or what's your opinion on that? And subscribe to the channel, then you'll always be up to date and see such real rarities. Or what's your opinion on that? And subscribe to the channel, then you'll always be up to date and see such real rarities. So, as I said, I think, or I claim, it's the rarest gecko in the world. And let's hope that through breeding and terroristics, we can make this rare gecko a bit more common. Otherwise, I just have to stay true. Check out the giant geckos.